Scrummaging Fly Half has come to us on Twitter and asked, is it time to bring the Cheetahs back to the URC? What's your take on that?
Oh, I would love the Cheetahs to come back. I'd love, but not at the expense of the Lions, because the same thing is going to happen to the Cheetahs. The dead same thing is going to happen to the Cheetahs, where in terms of quality and depth. Okay, the Cheetahs won the Currie Cup last season, and they maybe on paper might have a better team than the Lions. I do not know. We do not see them. This Lions team against the Currie Cup Cheetahs team. It's unfair to judge the two. But for me, I wouldn't entertain bringing the Cheetahs back at the expense of the Lions. I would rather try and get them into the competition as well, or try and maybe merge the two in, but it's not going to work because of Joburg is actually Joburg is actually 4 hours away. A few guys even mentioned it, why don't the Lions and the Bulls merge? But you can't, because of historically, if you look at the Lions were actually the first Super 10 winners, South African winners, going way back 3 times, Super Rugby finalists, and now coming into the URC and merging them with the Bulls, who were always rivals. It's not going to work. So the African rugby has a problem of how to entertain the Cheetahs and how to get them into a competition, but I wouldn't do it at the expense of the Lions, because for me, the Lions always brings out a few gems. And I mean, you're looking at Nohamba, I mentioned, you're looking at a few guys in that squad that they can play.
Smith comes through them.
Kwagga Smith comes from there. There's quite a lot of big guys that come from the Lions, Elton Jantjies comes from there. So there's you have a big in terms of scouting, not in scouting, but in terms of players coming through. There's quite a lot of players that come from the Lions, but in terms of the history of South African rugby, I wouldn't just want to throw this franchise away, because if you are going to drop the Lions from URC and bring in the Cheetahs, I don't think the Lions have the character to bounce back from it. I don't think they have that. The Cheetahs at least has this. They have. How can I say? The Cheetahs have in the city of Bloemfontein. They have a lot of support. The Lions don't even have the support in Johannesburg anymore. So what's going to happen to the franchise if they do, get dropped from the URC?
Yeah. What about adding them in addition to adding them as an extra team because I think Scrummaging Fly's point was that, maybe there'd be less games that they'd have to play, the South African teams would have to play on tour and vice versa for the other teams. Do you think that would, or are we getting to close to Super Rugby expansion territory here and we're having too many teams?
Yeah, I agree with Scrum. I don't know. I must probably have to wash my tongue out after this, but I agree with Scrummaging Fly after that. I agree, to add them in. Like I said, try and get them in. But how are you going to make it work? Where the conferences look set with 4-4, 4 groups. Where are you going to get them in? Where are you going to get them in? So, yeah, logistics-wise, I'm not sure. I don't think. Maybe Ireland has a capacity for another team, but I don't think Wales. Maybe Scotland has. Wales does. I don't think Italy has. So where are you going to get another team, to get through? And if you are going to approach the URC and say, well, let's try and get the Cheetahs in, I don't think they're really going to entertain the idea of, getting another team and in from South Africa when everybody else has 4, or, it's just not going to work out like that.
Yeah. And just touching on the Cheetahs, just in terms of funding, because I remember when they used to be in the Pro 16, I used to be kind of baffled about the kind of the small crowds again. But I was often just wondered, where are they getting the funding? Because it didn't seem to me like they were getting bumps on seats. Again, is it a financial backer? Is it Toyota? Is it, a combination of South African Union plus all the above? Or to me, it just so they always seemed like a team that was maybe not financially there or just hanging in there, or do they have a solid kind of financial backing?
I wouldn't say solid, depending on how you would rate solid financial backing. I wouldn't say in terms of where the Stormers are or the Bulls are. Therefore, they're well off of that. But Toyota is a big sponsor of them. But it's not as big too. They still need to have these Toyota challenges. They still need to get. Luckily, with the Currie Cup, they tend to make the final a lot, and they get a full house. They get a POC test match every 2 or 3 years they get the box play in Bloemfontein. So, and also in terms of who they buy, okay, they did get Franstein and the one Pienaar back, but I mean, all of the other players are signed from smaller unions in the Currie Cup, like from Brickworks, from the Pumas, or some from the Leopards, from there, you know. So those guys, it doesn't cost them an arm in the leg for in terms of salaries to get those guys in, and that's been the Cheetahs' DNA. All the years, Cheetahs has always been, if you've seen, like when you had Valilaroo, you know, all of those guys coming through from the Cheetahs, there hasn't been the big name signings. They never made big name signings. They believe a lot in their development. And from there on, you know, there's always been a joke in South African rugby where in the past, they say when the Sharks played against the Cheetahs in Bloemfontein, the Sharks players sleep at their parents' house because they're all from Bloemfontein and they're all from the Cheetahs. So that's always been the joke in South Africa. But yeah, it's the Cheetahs for me. They've always been, you know, in terms of looking at development, looking at getting guys and then selling them off. You know, then they move on to bigger clubs there. But like I explained to you now, the big problem in South African rugby is it's not that the talent is not there. It's just that there's a big exodus of younger players going overseas at a younger age. Where, if I could put it to you like this, if we have guys like Jasper Visser, you know, all of those guys under the age of 25 or 26 playing the trade in Europe, 10 years ago, that wouldn't be the case. You know, they'd be at the age of 28, 29, then they'd move on to Europe. In their peak, and in their prime, they would still be playing in South Africa. So, but now these guys are going from early age, they're moving. I don't blame them for moving. You know, they're going for financial reasons, but I mean, it's leaving a big gap. And we're seeing it maybe at the Cheetahs and the Lions.
Yeah. And Ruan Pienaar, he's signed on for another year, hasn't he?
No
Yeah, he's
way.
signed on.
How old is he now?
He signed on. He will be 40 next year. He'll be 40.
Yeah. He's doing another season, isn't he?
Yeah, Frans Steyn is director of rugby at the Cheetahs now. Ruan Pienaar signed on for another season, yeah.
You love to see it.
Wow, amazing.